Hello and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit cryptocurrency, NFTs, real estate, businesses, all tax deferred, defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax so you can create and preserve more wealth or help those you serve do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, crypto, and sometimes NFT minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of Vancouver, Canada. And he has always been on the forefront of new tech trends. And from biohacking to internet marketing, he knows where to invest his time. And so when the NFT wave came along, it was a natural fit for him to jump in. Because of his early entrance into the market, he is one of the few established thought leaders within the NFT space. He has consulted with 200 plus NFT brands and has partnered with Reddit, Twitter, and Quora. His two largest NFT projects, Sands Vegas Casino Club and Meta Legends, both sold out. The Sands project made $5 million in 20 hours, and the Meta project made an astounding $10 million in 20 hours, and even received celebrity attention and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Arvin Khamseh. Hey, Arvin, how are we doing today?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And for our listeners, getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
For sure. I started marketing back in 2012. I was helping a lot of small businesses back then and just learning a lot about marketing myself. And then all the way until working with Fortune 500 companies, public companies, doing their investor relationship marketing, managing 500K plus a month in media buying for them. And then in 2016, a good friend of mine, Nick, we would hang out a lot in Santa Monica area, and all the time I could see him he was on his phone and just like checking out these really weird graphics on his phone. And then so I asked him, I was like, hey man, what are you looking at? And he was telling me about Bitcoins back then, and he ended up selling everything he had, like his car, literally everything this guy had. He sold it and he put it into Bitcoins. And then obviously at the time I was just not really into it, and I was just focused on what I was doing in the marketing. So I didn't get into it. But a few years later, I called him and I'm like, hey, Nick, how's work? And he's like, what work? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, he's just traveling around the world. He's completely retired in his 20s. Right. And so for me, that was my, I would say, intro into the world of crypto and NFT, where I was like, this is a very serious thing. I need to take it to the next level as well. And years later, where I and my sister, we started investing in NFTs and just flipping, just like a lot of people do right now. My sister made more money in a day than she was making every month. Quite honestly, maybe she was making it maybe 6-7 months, right? So so we took it very seriously. And then I worked with this artist of Italy, and he just had a small collection of NFTs. He wanted to sell it out. I helped him do that. And then I realized there's a proof of concept. So I had this knowledge, I had the experience. And so I started working with a lot of brands, all the way to for example, Woman of Crypto recently, they hit #1 trending on OpenSea. They hit #1 on IC Tools. We've had multiple projects that they hit top 40 in the world for OpenSea. And I'm still going. I want, like I was telling you earlier on, people from Hollywood. I just want to help NFT projects do really well in a very short amount of time as well. Typically they have 2 to 4 weeks.
This is amazing. I'm so excited to have you on. I think you're the first true maybe specialist or expert, or at least on the forefront when it comes to NFTs. We have had crypto folks on, and we've had, of course, real estate and business. And so we're going to be talking about how to sell out NFTs in 4 weeks or less. And we're also going to be touching on some capital gains tax challenges that people are facing and maybe some solutions for that as well. So stick tuned for that. But before we go there, Arvin, I want to take one other step back. I want you to go back to maybe the earlier days maybe the high school days, right? I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what do you feel like those one or two gifts that you've been given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, I mean, so I was so in my high school days, I was taken into this organization. If someone looks it up, it's NODET. It's for people who have like higher than average IQ. And so I, like, on paper at least, I was very smart. And so I always wanted to do something with it, right? So I wanted to just do something really cool with the knowledge, with just like the ability to just absorb a lot of information. And then the one of the coolest thing I think for me was, like, I remember, like, back then, every time anyone would talk about artists, they would talk about how they're completely broke, right? So, like, there's literally, like, the stereotype of artists is like that broke person that they go after their dreams, but too bad, like, they're not gonna make it. Like, that's literally like what people think about, right? So and that, I think, is changing. And I get to be someone who is helping these people actually create a new identity for themselves, which is really, really wealthy artists. They get to do what they want to do and charge as much as they want to charge. And that's, like, super exciting. So I think that's the coolest thing you could do for the society.
I think that's amazing, right? And I love the way that you say you're smart in the high IQ and the ability to absorb the information. And now you're helping people. You're taking that gift and you're helping to apply to others who have had maybe a challenge with taking the artistic side to the business side,
Yeah.
and doing it through marketing NFTs. Like, this is so exciting for me to learn about. Okay, so cool. Let's dive right into it then. So what's the number one secret then, Arvin, to selling out of NFTs in 4 weeks or less? What's step one? What's secret number one?
Yes. So, I mean, obviously there are certain things not to do. So if people just not do those things, they're gonna be ahead of the game. But as far as what to do, what I found works best with almost all the brands that sold out in, we've had a bunch of them actually lately, they sold out in like 7 minutes, is having a very strong presence on Discord and Twitter. Now, how to build it is typically through paid ads and paid influencers. Now, of course, there are a lot of details into this, right? So, like, I mean, it makes sense, right? You pay people to talk about your project, but it's obviously more than that, right? So otherwise everyone would do it and everyone would be successful. And according to Gary Vee, 99% of the NFT projects are not successful, right? So, and everyone knows that, right? But there's obviously a lot of things that go into it. So what I like to do with brands when they start is to actually have very specific goals. So for example, if they have a 10,000 collection, which is like a very typical thing. By the way, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, just because first person who did it needed 10,000, but most people shouldn't do 10,000, but that's another conversation. So for a 10,000 collection, you typically want to have 3 to 5 times the number of collection in your Discord, meaning you want to have 30 to 50,000 people in your Discord. As for your Twitter, you want to have somewhere around 10 to 15,000 people on your Twitter. So Twitter is essentially like, you can think of it as your resume. So you don't want to have like maybe mistakes in it. The formatting should be good. So it's just for presentation, okay? Versus your Discord is where your community stands. So Discord is everything about your community. And actually, if I were to say number one thing that is important, that the most important thing for any NFT project is their community. So people think about their artwork, the utility, the cultural reference. So those are all important. But if you don't have a community behind it, it's worth nothing. Absolutely nothing. So inherently, none of these NFT projects, and I mean, you can look at some of them, you know why, but they have zero value until you build a community around it.
Got it. Okay, so let me make sure I encapsulate some of that. So,
Yeah.
having a very strong presence on Twitter, right? Looking
Yeah.
at Twitter as like your resume, and hopefully having community and connection and culture there within
Yeah.
within even the Twitter world. But it's also Discord itself. That's kind of like your brand and your people, your tribe, if you will, right? And
Yeah.
then setting specific goals And depending on how much artwork you have or whatever it is that you're selling, having a lot of those, you want to have a certain amount in correlation. So if it's like 10,000 pieces of artwork, you're going to want to have 3 to 5 times that. Maybe I did that wrong.
Yeah,
If
no,
it's
that's
like
right. So that would be 30 to
it's
50,000.
okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
30, 50, okay, got it. 30, 50,000 of it's like followers who or people that are engaging with you. Like define that too. Like it's one thing to have followers, right? But what's another thing to have engagement, right? With those folks. So what's kind of the difference there?
So on Twitter, you want to have minimum 0.5% engagement. And then on Discord, the number of people compared to the online people is very important. So meaning you have to have 10% of all those people that you have in your Discord to be the online members. So for those of people who don't know what Discord is, or like they've never been on Discord, if every time you join a Discord, and honestly, I didn't know at some point neither, like it's not like something I've done from childhood. So when you join any Discord, you see it reads how many people they have and how many online people they have. The online people should be 10% of the entire population of the Discord. Now, if it's closer to 20%, obviously it's better, but minimum 10%. And if it's below 10%, that means they probably bought a lot of followers or like a lot of Discord members. And then also, or maybe their community is not really engaged. So they either have to purge or they need to just grow it to a larger number because it's so small, no one cares about it. So like that's
okay, so basically, this is like your credit score. Your credit score, like a credit card would be, right, for your social media score. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And where do you find that at? Like, where do you even look that up?
So for any projects, you can obviously if they've already had their public sale. Obviously, you can go on OpenSea, or let's say if it's on Solana blockchain, you can go on like Magic Eden, whatever platform they're on. But if they haven't minted, you can just go on their Twitter. Typically, they have a website, and a website of an NFT project always, I mean, unless they don't know what they're doing, always they have their Discord link, they have their Twitter link, and then also information about their roadmaps and the light paper, the team, if they're doxed or not. And for people who may not know what that means, it means if they're basically showing themselves or they're just hiding themselves behind their project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. So that's kind of step one. I guess it's your brand, it's social media, it's getting all that in order. Yeah, and setting the goals. Okay, good. And then what would be like step two? You're like, okay, I have that, or I want to make this. Like, what's the next step to making this thing happen in a short period of time?
First thing I like to do, and this is how. So a lot of people who are listening, if they've been following certain brands, there's been a lot of talk about specific brands. They're like, how does this brand have 10,000 followers with their first tweet? Like they just opened up this Twitter account. How do they have like 10,000 followers first day? That makes no sense. They must have bought something, they probably bought their followers, and sometimes they do, but most of the times it's actually not the case. Same thing with Discord. Like, how is it that like this brand, they just literally started their Discord and they have like 100,000 people in their Discord? Like, how is that even possible? Where back in the day, I remember like in marketing where you would just, I was just on Joel Combs' podcast before this, like, you would spend maybe 3 years, 4 years, and then you would build your social media like out, to 10,000, maybe 20,000, right? So like I was like, these are the people I learned from. And then, that's back in the day, that was the thing. Like you would learn from all these like people in the social media, and then you would know you have to like post 3 times a day, maybe every day in the week. And then eventually you would build your like following to maybe 10,000. And then maybe if you're really good, maybe like you just grow it year after year, right? Versus now in a day, you hit like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, right? And these are real people too, right? Now, how this works is obviously there are multiple ways to do this, but one way that I do it with clients, and I like to have them start with that like large following, like right off the bat, is to have paid influencers, possibly a bunch of them at the same time. These guys are all going to talk about the project. And then what happens is you set a standard for this community that, hey, listen, like we're gonna go like really fast. This is a fast-paced thing, meaning just like most of the projects, we're gonna do the minting, meaning the day where we sell the NFTs to people in 2 to 4 weeks, right? So when you start a project, and your Discord has like literally day 2 has like 10,000 people in it, and everyone's engaging, everyone's just like freaking out. They're like, this is so cool, I want to be part of this project. Then you have that vibe where people on when it gets to that point where you're actually starting the sale, like the public sale, people are not going to be like, well, I'm thinking about buying it or not buying it. No, it will be like, let's go. Like, I don't want to miss out. I don't want, it's the FOMO, right? So I don't want to miss out. Now, so then the first thing I like to do to summarize it for your listeners is having a bunch of influencers. And there's a distinction, by the way, between an influencer and a promoter. So a promoter, there are these channels out there where they just pumping giveaways or like shout outs like on a daily basis for maybe even like multiple accounts. You just pay them on Twitter, like typically with crypto, and then they copy paste everything you tell them, put it on their accounts. And sometimes even they have millions of followers, but you don't get any value from them because you get maybe even real followers, but they're not gonna buy or mint your NFT. What I mean by paid influencer is someone who actually has content, just like yourself, right? So you have real content. If you tell someone, be like, hey, I think you guys got to do this thing or that thing, people listen because they've already consumed your content, and you have an influence over them. So paid influencers, you find on YouTube, for this specific case, on YouTube and Twitter. And then you obviously typically like you gotta pay them, and unless they really like your project, and then you want them to be like maybe 2-3 of them at the same time. They talk about your project, and then the call to action of that. And this is, by the way, this alone, this part alone, it takes like maybe a week for you guys to like even like a pre-production, post-production, all this stuff. It actually takes time. But I'm just simplifying it, just saying, hey, just do influencing, right? And so
yeah,
they talk about the project. Call to action is go to the Discord community, because on Discord, we're doing a giveaway or you're going to be whitelisted. For people who don't know what whitelist means, basically, if you have a crypto wallet, your wallet is going to be in the smart contract of the NFT project, which would mean for you, you can actually mint or buy the NFT at an earlier date, or earlier time. It could be same date, at an earlier time than the public could buy it, right? So sometimes people really want that. And then so if you just say, for some people, if you say, hey, we're going to give away like a bunch of these whitelist spots, that's like a really cool thing for people just to be like, hey, I want to be on there, right? So they quickly like rush into your Discord, they start engaging to meet the requirements. Typically there are requirements as for whitelist as well, to meet the requirements to be a whitelister, for example. So step 2, so step 1 was obviously setting the goals, like how many people we want to have Discord, Twitter, and what actually whitelisters as well. Typically on whitelisters, you want to have about half of the collection size in your whitelist spots. But let's say, so we have those goals. How do you get people to Discord? With influencers at first, right? And then you start running ads. So you run ads on Quora, Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, and YouTube. Now, of course, depends on the budget. That's important to know, like which platforms you want to be on. Like if it's if the budget is lean, then you just want to be on YouTube and Instagram. The rest of them are going to be expensive. But typically, and I haven't measured all the platforms, just because sometimes people have a large budget. We're not focused on like figuring out like what the cost per acquisition is. We just want to like go, right? And we only have like 4 weeks. We're not, we don't have that much time to experiment things, right? So we're not going to just be like, hey, let's try this one platform and just like do a complete experiment to figure out what the cost per acquisition is.
Makes sense.
But what we do is like, we just either roll out to a lot of platforms or just like 1 or 2. And then the cost per acquisition, meaning cost per acquiring a new Discord member, is typically about $1. So with 0.5 to $1, you can get a new Discord member joining your community, really engaging with everyone. And it's like the coolest thing, because like especially for people, I mean, a lot of people who are doing NFT projects, they haven't even made $1 online before. And these guys coming in and they just like build a community of 10,000, and everyone's just like freaking out, talking. It's super exciting. And so that's the next steps, right? So the paid ads, and the influencers. And of course,
here's what I'm gathering, Arvin, right?
yeah,
Here's what I'm gathering. Like, you got to hire the who, don't be the how here, right? Like, this is like on steroids. Why you need to get with Arvin.
yeah.
By the way, if you're curious where you can find him, just go to twitter.com/ARVINKNFT. ARVINKNFT, because this is daunting to even think about doing this in 4 months. But the fact that you guys do it in 4 to 5 weeks is amazing. And I love the mission behind it to help the struggling artist, or help the person who wants to get their message out to the world. I have a book that's coming out, and I'm talking to a guy right now about potentially making it an NFT. And I'm wondering, are you doing it with books too? And what would that look like?
It's actually funny. Like, so I have a course, and then like everyone's telling me, like, just like how you have a book, everyone's telling me like you should create this pass where like people buy this NFT, and then that's how they access like your book or your course or your like consulting services. I mean, Gary Vee just recently did this thing where he like you have to buy his NFT to be able to go to his restaurant. You still have to pay at the restaurant,
Right.
but just to be actually get to actually go to
Yeah,
the
the cool
restaurant.
kids club, right? To be
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
able to get into it, yeah.
exactly.
But you get like front of the line. You can just walk in, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
not like you have to wait. You get seated and
exactly. So I think for books, like you could create it. Now, some like a really genius thing about this is that, let's say if they have to buy an NFT, and then let's say if they actually burn the NFT, they get to see the book, right? So then what happens is like, and I don't know like if this is like they could either burn it or they could just like access it. Maybe it's just like they don't even have to burn the NFT, right? But if they don't have to burn it, then they could sell it. So which means you don't have to market that book ever again, because that person is motivated to read that book and then sell it to the next person. First of all, you get anywhere from average 3 to 6% commission on every time this is being traded, which is awesome. On the high side, you can get a 10% commission on that. But the coolest thing above all is, imagine if you have, let's say, 100 people, each of them are selling it to let's say another 100. You just doubled the number of people who actually bought your book. They're doing the marketing for you. Like, they're actually motivated to sell it to
right.
other people, and this message gets across like a lot faster than, let's say, you alone going and just like running
Yeah, it makes
ads.
it's like it was like you're sharing it. It's almost like you're sharing it, sharing the
Yeah,
wealth. In other words, right? So you
yeah,
give a little away, give a little commission, right? Like affiliates, but it's all sync. It's all in the blockchain, right? Wherever it's all. You don't have to keep track of all of it because it's trading. Is that the whole idea of the
yeah.
NFT?
And
Like, it's
also, I stand corrected when I say commission. I really mean royalties. So maybe like that gets confusing for some people. They'll be like, "What's a commission coming from?" So you get 3 to 6% on average royalties, and then you can technically do up to 10%, but it will be like looked down upon if you do 10%. That's a little bit too much.
yeah, yeah.
But typically you do 3 to 6%. But yes, you can
Okay,
get that.
this is
Yeah.
very fascinating. Maybe we'll have a discussion afterwards about that, because I'm really super fascinated about that. So
Yeah.
let's shift into capital gains tax, right? And so when we talked before the episode, right, I said, hey, you're like, what would your listeners want? Like, well, what would you say the biggest frustration is when it comes to exiting highly appreciated NFTs, cryptocurrency, right? Because you could be in it at like 100,000. I'm literally working with an NFT owner right now. His position went to the tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars, right? And he's like, Brett, I'm not exiting yet. One, because he believes in the future of it, but two, he's like, I don't pay all the tax. He's like, so is there a way to like defer the tax? And I'm like, yes, there is. But I'm curious, what's your biggest frustration?
I mean, yeah, like I think but I also get the frustration of like, wanting to sometimes exit because this market is so volatile. Like, I give you an example. I'm not gonna say the name of the brand, but I bought this NFT for $500. 2 weeks later, Gary Vee and Justin Bieber bought it, and then the price went to 10K. I sold it. My sister kept it. So I got, I spent $500 and I sold it for 10K. My sister kept it. It went to, I believe, like somewhere around 15K, but then now it's back into like 5K. So it's that like scary thing where you're like, wait, what if it goes down, right? Like, what if it doesn't go up all the time, right? Of course, if it's your own NFTs that you're investing in, you can always market it and just like bring the floor price high up. But if it's someone else's, you never know, like if they're just gonna, at some point they're just gonna be sick of their own brand and then be like, well, we're done. Like we've done so many things for this community. We just want to take a break, right? And the floor price just dips and that's it. Like you can't do anything about that, right? And you wouldn't know if they have these plans, right? Unless you just really like close to the community and everything. So that's one side of it where it's like, okay, so it is like sometimes people want to exit, right? Yeah. But then if you do exit, then obviously you have to pay the taxes, right? And
well, you would think so, right? And this is where we come in. I want to just plug this right here, right? So you ready? So I'll give you actual deal stories that have closed, right? Because that's always the most practical way of doing it.
Yeah.
So we had a client. She worked for one of the big tech companies, Silicon Valley, and she bought Bitcoin at 30 to 50,000. She's probably like your roommate or the guy that you know in Santa Monica.
Right.
But in this scenario, it went to $50 million. Okay.
Yeah.
And she calls and she's like, I've never sold because I don't want to pay the tax, and B, I believe in the long-term future, but C, I didn't have like a thing I believed in to put the money in, but now I do. I want to invest alongside my college roommate to do a tech startup educational company, something they believed in and they're really passionate about.
Right.
And she goes, but I don't want to have to pay the tax. So how do I defer the tax and still do that? I'm like, enter the Deferred Sales Trust. So she exited $5 million in like 1 hour into a Kraken account. Okay, she transferred the coin there, and by doing it in the order that we tell her to do it in, which it means tax deferred, and through something called a Deferred Sales Trust. And this has been done thousands of times, billions under management prior to this cryptocurrency exit. It had been done with businesses, real estate, LPs, LLCs, S corps, you name it, car dealerships, dentists, orthodontists, all 50 states, all of this, but had never done with cryptocurrency. Now, the one before hers was actually the first one. It was a gentleman. He lived in the East Bay area, and he and his wife had Ethereum, and they bought Ethereum for around 100,000, a little bit of Bitcoin too, and went as high as 13 million. And their longest time, they're riding the roller coaster of going to 6 million, and then it crashes, and then it goes to 9 million, then it goes back to 3, and then this whole thing. And should we sell? Should we sell it all? They want to retire. Well, we exited when they were at 13 million. 5, and then it went up again, and they exited at another 2.5. So they picked 7.5 million off the table, and they feel fortunate they did, because now they don't have to work anymore, right? They can diversify. The wealth can be put in other things. But here's the other cool thing that I'm working on. We haven't done this yet, but you can actually invest back into crypto low again. So when I went back to with the trust, all tax deferred, and I went back to my my client who did the first 5 million out of the 50, and I said, look, Bitcoin's like some of the all-time highs. Like we sold at 54,000 a coin, it went to 68. And I was just like, hey, what if you exit it right now? Is that a higher number? This is like in the 60s, I'm like, you can buy back in at a lower number. She's like, yeah, I'll think about it. I'm still getting to know you in the first 5 million. I don't know if I'm ready for the other, 45 or 50. And anyways, what happened, right? Bitcoin drops to 35. We call it the Monday morning quarterback, but I want to let people know, like, that idea of the fear of missing out on the upside. Guess what? You can exit into the trust, kind of like put into an IRA, kind of like put into a 401k, defer the tax, but then you can partner with it and go back, buy real estate, go back and buy NFTs or crypto at a low and write it all back up, all tax deferred, right? And that's the cool thing, because I call it the gas fees, right? It's 30 to 50% every time you exit. It's tax, right? And that's the key. So I'm curious, what do you think about that? Have you heard anything about that like that before?
I love that. I mean, actually, so I just recently had one of my wallets worth of 100K got hacked, and just like the seconds just went. And I was just thinking about it. I was telling my buddy the other day, I'm like, I want to like not have like everything maybe in crypto. I want to have real estate, like bunch of real estate, because that's like a lot easier to manage sometimes. I mean, I did something very stupid. Like I didn't have to like lose that 100K in that wallet, but I think there is definitely value in just like bringing it something like real estate or something else, and then or like investing in a company or whatever, where it's not as volatile sometimes, and then obviously gain the benefit of that. But also I love the idea, like I gotta actually come back and watch this in like slow mo, like to just understand this, because that's actually very cool, like being able to, because that's one of the things I have is like, okay, I've got this, like these wallets, but then like how do we get it out? You know what I mean? Like, so
That's why we're here, right? We'd love to have you. And people who are listening, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. And I also want to invite everybody. We have our crypto deferred sales trust mastermind every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Totally free for everybody. Bring your CPA, bring bring a crypto millionaire, bring somebody who's looking for a way to exit well as if you're selling real estate or a business. And the whole idea is to bring the communities together. Because Arvin, I can tell you, the traditional stock market people generally aren't the crypto people, right? And the crypto people generally aren't the traditional stock market people, nor are they real estate. Although I've seen there's more correlation between those who like crypto, and I love crypto and I love real estate, right? And I also invest in the stock market. But the point of what I think what you're saying is having diversification, having some liquidity, but the key is having what's called optimal timing. And so if you can control when and if you invest into different things at different times, all tax deferred, that's powerful. But because what we say here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, it's no longer about cash flow, it's about tax flow. So even though you might have bought it at 100,000 and it went up to $1 million, guess what? That's great. But if you can't exit without getting hammered by tax, which takes away a huge amount of your incentive to exit and when it makes sense, then you're at a competitive disadvantage. But if you can release that thought of, I have to give up my citizenship, I have to move to Puerto Rico, right? Or whatever, right? I have to put it all into this retirement account. Like all of these hoops you have to help. If you could no, just form this trust, okay? Move it into the trust, right? Follow these steps, live off the cash flow of that, reinvest back into real estate, all tax deferred. It's total freedom. So that's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, cool. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do besides buy Bitcoin when you're selling everything?
I would read more. I would read more books. That's what I would tell myself.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
Question number 2: what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Number 1, it's actually Self-Reliance by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's a small book, but it's really cool.
Cool. I like that. I haven't checked that one out.
Yeah.
Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
I'm curious about what's the next NFT I should buy. Yeah.
Let me know what the one is. Maybe I'll hop in with you. Next question. What's your favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Leadership theme. Okay, so I like the leaders that they're on the front of the war, on the front of the fight versus like throwing people in the in the front and just like have them do things. I like people who actually go there and then show people how it's done and then other people follow that. That's
great. Yeah, you can't push a rope, right? You got to get out in front and you got to pull and you got to drag and you got to lead, so that's awesome. Last question. After all the people you've helped with NFTs, exiting NFTs, building wealth, how do you stay centered? What's the habits that you practice to stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
I've got the coolest people in my life. Like every morning at 6 a.m., I work out with a buddy of mine. He's a former Miss Canada. And, I've got a very small like community of just like really close friends, just hanging out with them, talking with them a lot. Don't listen to anything on social media, not much on news. Don't talk to a lot of people who have a lot of like negative thoughts or like energy. And, we're just focused on like doing good things for people.
Absolutely love that. Hey, Arvin Khamseh, make sure I pronounce it. Yeah, Khamseh. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for using your gifts of a very high IQ, absorbing a lot of information and being able to actually help us digest it today with NFTs. And I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts you've been given to bless others, to help them get a ton of wealth as they're exiting well and creating wealth with artwork or whatever else they might be doing. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, so Twitter, I'm very responsive. That is at Arvin K NFT, ARVIN KNFT. And then also, I'm on all socials, but Twitter, I'm most responsive. And then also my website, soldoutnfts.io. So if you want to sell out your NFTs, you go to soldoutnfts.io. Yeah.
Awesome. Arvin, thanks for being on the show. And also want to thank our listeners for listening to that episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. And using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit NFTs, businesses, real estate, crypto, save a fail 1031 exchange, high-end luxury homes. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get started today with your Deferred Sales Trust exit plan. And for those who are listening on Expert CRE Secrets, we also appreciate you out there. And of course, the Mastermind. Come to the Mastermind. It's so fun. It's our community. It's what we're building here. Clients come on, people learning about it for the first time, CPAs, financial advisors, cryptocurrency experts, investors, real estate experts. We're all on there kind of geeking out about tax, exiting, selling and buying real estate, crypto, all things. And so you're invited to come every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern. Just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to register. Look for the new book that's coming out, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy, the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or clients. I have some cool people in there like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank and a number of other really smart people that are going to be a part of the book. So excited about that. And with that, please rate, review, subscribe. Please share this with someone that can inspire. We so appreciate everybody